Ha, once a student living in a tiny 9-square-meter room, now at 32, is the deputy head of HR at a 100% foreign-owned manufacturing company. She has just bought a spacious and well-equipped apartment on an installment plan. Yet, Ha still maintains her habit of buying second-hand clothes. This ingrained frugality, a trait passed down from her grandmother to her mother, and then to her children and grandchildren like her, means that even after living and working in Hanoi for over a decade, Ha always chooses thrift, from a new hair clip to a pair of trousers or a shirt. As a result, she often seems like someone from decades past, from a time when people struggled with hunger and lacked proper clothing. Perhaps Ha would have clung to this thrifty nature until the end of her life, had it not been for a shock, or rather, a harsh slap to the face, delivered by her boyfriend. She had just heard, with her own ears, every word her boyfriend spoke to his intern as they secretly hooked up in an empty office after work hours. If Ha wasn't an HR manager, if it wasn't her turn for a promotion, I would have dumped her ages ago. That country bumpkin smells stale, not fresh like anyone else. And her clothes, sloppy, worn-out skirts faded at the hems like rags. She wears them to work, completely shameless. Sometimes, walking next to her, it feels like I'm with my mother, but I have to put up with it. At least now that the contract is signed, I'll transfer to the southern branch. Honestly. Just looking at her makes me sick. The intern girl merely chuckled, a slight smirk on her lips, as she listened to these disparaging remarks. Then she sighed, enjoying the comforting sensation of her lover gently massaging her slender, pale neck. Perhaps someone with his taste would never want to lay eyes on outdated outfits, let alone second-hand clothes. At that moment, Ha froze, her mind numb, a throbbing ache spreading through her, as if a bucket of ice water had been thrown directly in her face. Yet she couldn't retort. Unconsciously, she looked down at her own dress, bought just last month. It was a second-hand item, a hand-me-down from a previous purchase. It was still fine, if a little faded, but it only cost 40,000 VND. She had washed and ironed it, and it looked perfectly decent, not like the rag, Hung, her boyfriend, had called it. But now, comparing the intern's delicate, figure-hugging, fashionable silk dress to her own stiff, office-appropriate floral dress, which reached her calves and was slightly discolored in places from being washed repeatedly, Ha felt utterly inadequate. The intern's radiant, glowing skin and confident demeanor seemed to perfectly complement her vibrant red dress. For a moment, Ha shrank back, a wave of inferiority washing over her, tears silently streaming down her face. She didn't have the confidence to burst in and confront them. He was, after all, openly introducing her to the entire company as his fiancé. So, Ha quietly left, leaving behind the intimate whispers of her boyfriend and the beautiful third party. Back home, Ha buried herself on the sofa, staring blankly at the night outside the window. She remembered when she first met Hung. At the time, she was a senior HR specialist, about to be promoted to replace the retiring deputy head, while he was a new technical department employee, still in his probation period. Hung was handsome, charming, and sociable, popular with colleagues both inside and outside the company. Yet, despite his elegant appearance, no one would have guessed he came from a humble, rural background. His polished exterior belied his mediocre abilities. He was, to be precise, just average. What's more, he often shirked work, affecting overall production schedules, much to the frustration of the technical department head. Several times, the department head called Hung in for private talks. Ha, as an HR specialist, was also present to ensure that if Hung didn't try harder, he wouldn't pass probation, and his probation period might even be cut short so HR could find a replacement. In response to the technical head's warning, Hung expressed remorse, promising everything to get another chance. And rightly so, as the company's salary was good, benefits excellent, and job opportunities scarce in the post-pandemic era. He had to hold onto his position. But a seasoned technical manager like the department head wasn't easily swayed by a few promises from Hung. He remained stern, even demanding daily work reports from Hung to evaluate his probation. Yet, after 2 months, Hung was transferred to the IT department, a relatively cushy division within the company, and earned a higher salary than other technical staff, despite his skills being completely unsuitable. Soon after, Hung officially declared his relationship with Ha. He always boasted about Ha to everyone in the company, calling her a rare gem in an era where everyone was chasing cosmetic enhancements. Ha's simplicity, frugality, and dedication were often praised by Hung as ideal qualities for a wife who would nurture and care for a family. He would tell everyone that Ha cooked delicious meals to bring to work instead of generic rice, unlike other girls. And of course, someone with Ha's limited dating experience quickly fell for the charming man. They soon became a couple, receiving many well wishes. People were genuinely happy for Ha finally finding love in her 30s, but many also secretly advised her to be careful, to protect herself, because Hung didn't seem trustworthy. But at that time, love was like a swallow flying into spring. Ha felt vibrant and full of life, unable to hear any genuine advice. And then, when she heard Hung's true words, when the bitter truth was revealed, Ha's heart died a little, filled with both hatred and pain. Ha lay there, entangled in a maze of memories, until dawn when the doorbell rang. Ha knew it was Hung. He probably didn't realize she knew his true colors, so he still stumbled to her door, reeking of alcohol, singing his usual tune, "The more I drink, the more I miss you." At that moment, Ha felt a deep disgust, a shiver running through her as she recalled their intimate moments with such a vile, morally corrupt man. And who knew, maybe Hung himself felt revulsion when sleeping with what he considered a rag. The doorbell rang more insistently, but Ha no longer felt the urge to rush out as before. Her mind was blank. She didn't want to question him, didn't want a scene, she just wanted to kick this pathetic man out of her life. No one else, she herself, had allowed this troublesome man into her life, given him a chance at a stable job when he was jobless, surviving on instant noodles and plain water for months. So she thought, if she decisively shook him off, the trouble would surely return to where it belonged, the trash bin. With a strange calm, she quickly walked into the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. She put on a newly bought vintage wool sweater, added a touch of perfume, not expensive, but sweet and pleasant, then went to open the door for Hung. And just as expected, Hung, reeking of alcohol, rushed in and embraced Ha dramatically. "I missed you so much. The more I drink, the more I miss you. I just want to be home with you. You smell so good today. I missed you so much, honey." Normally, Ha would have been utterly swept away by these words, her mind clouded with emotion. But now she had to take a deep, shaky breath, suppressing the disgust welling up in her throat. Ha turned, gently removing Hung's hands, then waited for him to sit on the sofa before speaking softly. "I always miss you, but today I have to go to work early, lots of things to do. Why don't you change into your pajamas and get some sleep? I'm going to the market to buy breakfast for you, and then I'll head straight to the office." "What? You're leaving me alone at home? Are you trying to overwork your husband?" Ha couldn't tolerate Hung's hypocrisy for another second. She quickly stood up to get clothes from the wardrobe for him to change into. "Come on, be a good boy. Isn't it almost time for the HR performance review and the contract for the parent company in China? I need to send it before New Year's so everyone can plan their holidays." At this, Hung's eyes lit up with hope. He took the clothes Ha prepared, not forgetting a few intimate gestures to probe further. "What about my work?" "My department is still doing evaluations. I haven't even received the report from your branch manager yet." "Oh my God, they're clearly giving me a hard time. If you wait for his report, you might as well prepare my termination notice right now." Hung feigned extreme frustration, but this time, instead of comforting him as before, Ha merely shrugged, dismissing her useless boyfriend. She retorted bluntly, "I don't have the power of God, you know. If your department head evaluates you poorly during the contract phase, there's nothing I can do. But who knows, maybe this is a good opportunity for you to show your courage. Seek new horizons with a higher position. Haven't you always wanted to be a manager? Maybe in a new environment, you'll have an easier chance at a promotion. Here, your department head might only retire in another season before you get a chance to replace him." "What? Is that what you're saying? So you don't want to help me anymore, do you? You even managed to transfer me from the technical department to your department head, and now you're just going to use and discard me." Hung immediately became irritated and sulky. He always thought Ha would be afraid of him leaving and would help him time and again. A few sulky words would always make Ha cave. Just like before, if he met Ha's needs, she would shoulder all the company's burdens for him. Ha was, after all, the deputy head of HR, a talent highly cherished and nurtured by the parent company for future high-level management. But he underestimated Ha. When she loved blindly, recklessly, disregarding herself. But once betrayed, she became as cold-blooded as anyone. It was truly as people say, what you can lift, you can put down. And Ha certainly could. Ha smiled contemptuously inwardly, but outwardly, she gently replied to her pathetic, aggrieved boyfriend. Times have changed. If I, with my official status, helped you, people would say I'm biased towards my boyfriend. I don't want people to say you're hiding behind your girlfriend's skirt, so I have to follow the rules strictly. And shouldn't you be more confident in yourself? You always say your expertise is better than your department heads, don't you? It's often the most capable people who get suppressed by lesser men. Our company's too big, you won't win against them. Oh well, let people say what they want. So, Ha, are you going to help me or not? Go take a shower, change your clothes. If anything comes up at the company, text me. Ha replied indifferently, then grabbed her bag and left. Outside, cold winds whipped against her face, helping her clear her head like never before. All the love she had for Hung had been swept away by the wind in an instant. Now, only burning determination remained in Ha's heart, how to give this cruel man a lesson he'd never forget before kicking him out. And so, Ha quickened her steps. She bought pre-cooked food, specifically Hung's least favorite dishes, and put them in lunchboxes. She also stopped at a pharmacy to buy a few necessary items, then took a taxi directly to the company without going home first. She hated the thought of seeing Hung's pathetic, incompetent face again, but until her plan succeeded, he would remain the rag and idiot he had called her. The first thing she did at the company was go to the security room, claiming she needed to check on colleagues working late last night. She had the security guard review the surveillance footage. And of course, the images of Hung and the intern, using overtime as an excuse to flirt in the office, were clearly visible to all the security staff present that morning. These two were probably so shameless that they had long stopped caring about the office's cameras, so they thought disabling the IT department security cameras last time would allow them to act so brazenly. But now, that didn't matter to Ha, because she knew that in this company, people highly valued their employees' image, ethics, and conduct. A man once seen as a prince had officially revealed his rotten true self. As for the intern, her innocent, snow-white appearance had irritated Ha. Now she would dare to show a proud, arrogant face, stepping into life wanting to be a third party. She would surely pay, and at a price far more expensive than the beautiful, fashionable outfits she wore. And indeed, just as Ha predicted, the results of the company-wide performance evaluation were out, and Hung's performance was still poor. His department head did not agree to extend his contract, especially with the blatant affair being openly discussed, further tarnishing his image. After 9 a.m., Hung heard the news and rushed to the company, only to be greeted by colleagues with judgmental and disdainful looks. The intern had probably vanished, no longer daring to show her face. Hung stormed into the HR department, using his most pathetic expression to beg Ha for forgiveness. But the girl, once thought to be hopelessly smitten, had now become decisive. She showed no anger, only uttering a bland sentence that felt like a direct slap to Hung's face. The IT department's evaluation of your quality did not meet the requirements to continue working for the company. Therefore, please prepare to hand over your current tasks to your direct manager. The HR and administrative department will complete all contract termination procedures for you within 2 weeks. Hung stood there like a defeated general, staring at Ha for several seconds, still unable to believe his loving girlfriend could become so cold so quickly. But just as quickly, he resorted to his usual tactic of begging, just like countless times before. What? Are you crazy? I loved you despite what outsiders said, that you were old, sloppy, not good enough for me. And now, just because I had one moment of weakness with someone else, you're giving up? You mean you want to break up with me? Yes, we're breaking up. Right here, right now. Furthermore, business is business. You've received the decision, proceed with the procedures. With that, Ha picked up her notebook, stood up and walked out, leaving Hung behind, trembling with anger, 2 red veins visible in the corners of his eyes. A faint smirk played on her lips, and a sinister plan slowly took shape in Ha's mind. That night, Ha returned home later than usual. She deliberately bought a large travel suitcase and a pile of brand new, fashionable clothes, enough to fill the suitcase. Then, She calmly went to a fancy restaurant, one she usually only glanced at, feeling that she and such luxurious meals were from different worlds. She threw away the new dress she bought at the thrift store yesterday and put on a short black pinafore dress that elegantly showed off her slender shoulders and healthy tan skin. Donning the new dress and high heels, Ha confidently walked down the street, turning heads and earning admiring glances. Ha wasn't inherently unattractive, she simply hadn't known how to dress up and present herself to stand out. Today, Ha wanted to live better, to love herself more. Not because of Hung's mocking words, but because Ha herself had realized she had never treated herself well. Around 10 p.m., Hung leisurely returned home, dragging his suitcase of clothes. He took a deep breath, preparing to face the rubbish waiting at the doorstep. Hung reeked of alcohol, his clothes disheveled, his hair messy, barely able to stand. When he saw Ha, who he had known intimately for so long, looking so different. Her face subtly made up with a touch of red lipstick, her dress perfectly hugging her toned, yet feminine body, exuding the mature charm and allure of a successful woman, Hung had to blink several times for the alcohol to clear, feeling regret for having betrayed this woman. "I was wrong, I'm sorry, can we start over? I only love you, you're my wife. She's nothing, just a fleeting crush, a passing fling." Hung's voice was filled with remorse, his tormented conscience on the verge of tears, like a small fish losing a big one. He truly felt that standing before Ha now, he was the inferior, the failure. Jobless, penniless, homeless, with no loyal friends to lean on, only party-loving, lazy friends who lived off women. Ha, however, with just a slight change, had moved miles ahead of Hung, making it hard for him to catch up, especially since he had been expecting a tearful, desperate, blindly infatuated girlfriend who would quickly forgive him. Ha looked at Hung with a chilling gaze, uttering a single, soft sentence before going inside. "I'll be in China for 2 weeks on a business trip. In these 2 weeks, do you dare to make sure she completely disappears from my sight? To prove that I am your only wife? If you dare, I'll believe you." The door closed. On Hung's phone screen, a text message notification appeared. "I will prove it to you." In truth, Ha had no great expectations, no hopes left for this man. But she couldn't bear to let her betrayer be happy. She would make them realize that death might be easier than living. The next day, just as planned, Ha left the house early with her suitcase, but she wasn't going to China. It was simply a long overdue vacation after 5 years of dedication to the company. As Ha left, Hung arrived with a bouquet of flowers, intending to give them to his girlfriend. But his usual easy smile had vanished. This time, he had brought a spare key, so he easily opened the door and entered. The intern had already been evicted from the company's dormitory. Standing at the front door, Hung guessed Ha had left. He carelessly threw his smelly shoes and dirty socks onto the table, not fearing anyone's reprimand. Then he lay on the sofa, leisurely smoking a cigarette, munching on a cold pastry, and began to think about the coming days. He remembered what Ha had said last night, pondered for a moment, then picked up his phone and called his mistress. "Text me your address, come over right away." He didn't know what she said on the other end, but Hung just chuckled softly in response. "Ha's on a 2-week business trip, what's there to be afraid of? We can just stay at her place for now. My friends are visiting, so we'll just have to rough it for a few days until her anger cools down, then we'll meet properly. I'll miss you terribly. And don't forget to buy some groceries, okay?" Then Hung hung up, falling into a deep sleep to make up for the previous night's long hours of fun. Now, he had the audacity to stay here for a few days. Why wouldn't Ha mind? About an hour later, Hung's mistress arrived. The intern was still beautifully made up, in a dazzling outfit, seemingly unaffected by the company's condemnation for being a homewrecker. She carried several boxes of pre-made sushi rolls. When Hung opened the door, she couldn't help but jump into his arms like a long-starved person, immediately complaining, "You shouldn't let me suffer like this. I don't even dare go anywhere, just afraid someone I know will recognize me." "Oh, so you can be afraid? Then why are you still dressed so provocatively, trying to attract more attention?" Hung smirked, his eyes full of lust as he looked at his lover. And the girl was no less bold. With practiced hands, she quickly unbuttoned Hung's shirt, whispering, "Isn't it all for you?" The guilt and regret that had briefly flickered in Hung's mind last night were now completely extinguished by the fire of passion from the girl. He decided to just enjoy a few more days and then figure things out. After all, This girl was not only pretty and eager to please, but she also knew how to extract money from men to support him. Sometimes, the money she brought in for Hung's spending was more than his monthly salary at the company. It just lacked a future. The two sick individuals had been living together in Ha's house for a week. Then, Hung received a notification that Ha would be back tonight. He was smoking when the message startled him, as he hadn't expected Ha back so soon. He quickly nudged the intern. "Get up! Get ready to clean up. She's coming back soon." But unlike usual, today the girl didn't just seem unafraid of Ha, she didn't even bother to move. She just lay languidly on the sofa, like something that sent shivers down Hung's spine. His eyes slowly focused on a pregnancy test stick with 2 red lines. He wasn't mistaken. It was a pregnancy test with 2 clear red lines. Seeing Hung's expression, the intern couldn't hide her triumphant smile. "What are you going to do? My child needs a father tomorrow." Hung's mind went blank for a few seconds, then he quickly processed the situation. He regained his composure, tossed the pregnancy test back onto his lover, and sneered, "Are you trying to trick me into this, or what? There's no way this is my child. I'm the only one you're with. You expect me to take responsibility. Are you trying to deny it? I'm not that easy to fool. If you're brave enough to sleep with me, be brave enough to take responsibility. Or should I bring the ultrasound results to show you before you give up the idea of going back to her?" Just as the girl finished speaking, a resounding slap echoed. Blood gushed from the corner of her mouth, and the pain hit her face without warning, without any chance to prepare or defend herself. Her artistically handsome lover suddenly transformed into a beast, striking her with a slap that left the intern stunned, trembling, and silently resentful. "You dare hit me? I dare kill you, let alone hit you." And indeed he did. Not allowing his mistress to resist, Hung's hand clamped down on her slender, pale neck, which gradually turned purple until the intern stopped struggling. He didn't stop. He then just exhaled a soft sigh. Next, he grabbed the large red suitcase I had bought, which was on top of the wardrobe. He also packed his mistress neatly into the suitcase. But when he tried to zip it shut, her legs were stiff and wouldn't bend as he wished. So, an evil thought flashed in Hung's mind. He took the kitchen knife and brutally chopped off his mistress's arms and legs to arrange them. Only then did the suitcase finally zip closed. Hung had only one last step: clean the room meticulously, as if nothing monstrous had happened. Taking the remaining money from his mistress's wallet, Hung went online to order a self-driving car. And when night fell, the red suitcase sank into the hydroelectric lake in his hometown. The piercing cold winds of the night blew against his face, making Hung feel a slight chill. But as he watched the suitcase slowly sink into the murky black water, Hung merely whispered, "It's your fault. Don't blame me. Just rest in peace there until your next life. I'll come light incense for you every year." When the lake was completely still, with only a few ripples, Hung silently turned and walked away. The rising mist was like a layer of cold frost, but perhaps it wasn't as cold as the killer's heart. Hung walked aimlessly through the dark night to his car. This was where he was born and raised, where every bush and blade of grass felt familiar to him. But tonight, he didn't know if it was due to his wife's curse or the changing weather, Hung felt utterly lost in his hometown. Many vague thoughts about the coming days also flickered in Hung's mind. And somehow, after circling around, Hung found himself back at the exact spot by the bank where he had thrown his mistress. At this moment, a deep fear enveloped Hung, and his face unconsciously broke out in a cold sweat. Beneath the dark, silent lake, a splashing sound suddenly made Hung jump, tripping and falling flat on the ground. His flashlight also rolled down into the murky depths of the hydroelectric lake. The already dark space became even darker. Hung fumbled in the darkness for his phone to find some light. But for some reason, his limbs were so numb they wouldn't obey his will. And this moment seemed to stretch endlessly as a soft, whimpering cry echoed from the bottom of the lake, carried by the wind. "Mommy and I are waiting for you, big brother. Come join us." At the sound, Hung felt a gust of wind blow from nowhere, wrapping around him, suffocating him. Although he was still conscious, Hung's limbs stiffened, unable to resist. And when his hands, cold and limp, finally dropped, Hung vaguely realized he was slowly sinking into the lake. Beneath the dark water, the faint shadows of a mother and child beckoned. Gradually, Hung was pulled by the water towards those apparitions, his arms wrapping around the mother and child, as if he were the father they had always wanted. By noon the next day, people found the body of a man clutching a red suitcase, floating on the surface of the hydroelectric lake. And even more horrifying, inside the suitcase was the body of a girl with her lower legs severed. The two hands of the girl, even in death, instinctively covered her belly, protecting her unborn child. 4 years later, the family of old Man Ngo moved from China to Vietnam to live and work at an electronics component factory owned by a Chinese investor. Old Man Ngo, whose real name was Ngo Van Quang, was 50 but very shrewd. His eyes narrowed, and his nose hooked like a hawk's beak, as if he could see through the world. He was meticulous in both work and life, but his wife, Truc Mai, was addicted to gambling, accumulating so much debt that she had to flee. They also brought along a 3-year-old granddaughter whose parents divorced and then abandoned her with her grandmother. As the technical director of the factory, Old Man Ngo was provided with housing by the company, not crammed into employee dorms like others. The house he was offered was an apartment of over 80 square meters, only 2 kilometers from the company, and conveniently located near a local market and schools. So, Old Man Ngo liked it very much, especially since the price was affordable within his financial means. On the first day, inspecting the house with a young real estate agent fluent in Chinese, Old Man Ngo was greatly surprised, wondering why such a beautiful house in such a convenient location could be so cheap. Moreover, this floor had a total of 14 units, but only 4 units in the hallway where his house was located were occupied. The rest were empty. He immediately asked the agent about this, who explained that while it was convenient to the industrial zone, it was far from the city center. Wealthier people would buy closer to the city center. This area was mainly for factory workers and employees in the industrial zone who had lower incomes. And these people couldn't afford to buy houses, so even though the developer had handed over the units 3 years ago, they were still not fully occupied. The agent's explanation seemed reasonable, but Old Man Ngo still felt a little uneasy. However, once inside, he truly liked the house. It was spacious and brightly lit, with simple but elegant decorations that suited his lazy, pleasure-loving wife. Furthermore, the apartment had a beautiful balcony overlooking the lake, large enough for him to grow some ornamental plants to add greenery to the house. He also hung some wind chimes on the balcony, just as he liked, so he could hear their clear tinkling sound every night. It always made his heart feel lighter, easing the worries his wife and children brought. Finally, Old Man Ngo decided to purchase apartment 1013. The apartment was almost in the innermost corner, with 2 empty units separating it from the nearest occupied one. He hoped this would prevent strangers from peeking into his home, as he knew an expat family, a middle-aged couple with a 3-year-old granddaughter, moving in would surely draw gossip and scrutiny. The very next week, Old Man Ngo and his wife packed their belongings into their new home after paying the remaining amount to the previous owner. Since they had few belongings, they only needed 1 taxi ride to complete the move early in the morning. Afterwards, Old Man Ngo quickly went to the nearby market to look for some potted plants for the balcony. As he walked, he remembered the scrutinizing glances of people in the same building when they saw his family moving in. He couldn't quite place the look in their eyes, but he sensed suspicion and fear, prompting him to question the house he had just moved into once again. He spent the entire morning at the market, meticulously examining each potted plant. By almost noon, Old Man Ngo had settled on 5 orchid pots, with the help of the young shop owner who knew a few Chinese phrases. After paying, Old Man Ngo had the shop owner help transport the plants home. The owner even enthusiastically accompanied him, introducing him to the area he had just moved to. "What floor do you live on in the Bin complex? I know almost all the apartment buildings around here. Which house did you buy?" The shop owner asked leisurely as he drove his 3-wheeled cart. "The 10th floor. Do you know the owner of apartment 1013? It's the 13th unit in the corner." The plant shop owner suddenly exclaimed, which made Old Man Ngo confused. But the owner, realizing his reaction was a bit excessive, quickly added, "That house, you must have bought it cheap, right? If it was priced like the other units, you'd curse the agent to hell. But why is it so cheap?" "Well, it's not as nice as the other units, to be honest. The first owner was an ethnic minority girl who came here to work, bought it, then sold it to a friend of mine from the south who came up here, but she sold it again in less than 3 months. Since then, it's had several owners, and no one has stayed long. The plant shop owner's story was interrupted as the cart arrived at the Bin apartment complex. Truck Mai and his granddaughter, for some reason, had run down to the first floor to wait. Old Man Ngo smiled apologetically, explaining, "My wife has a lot of things to deal with and isn't fluent in the language, so I took a while. And why are you two down here? It's cold inside. What are you doing?" Instead of his wife answering, the 3-year-old girl babbled excitedly. "Auntie and that boy kept chasing me out. Grandma was so angry, she picked me up and brought me down here." Old Man Ngo looked at his granddaughter, then his wife's face, trying to gauge her mood. Truck Mai immediately snapped, "You've been gone for half the day. She's been so noisy. She wanted to go out and play, so she kept making up stories about someone chasing her out, crying and crying. I couldn't take it anymore." Hearing this, Old Man Ngo picked up his granddaughter, pinched her chubby cheek, and gently scolded. "My little girl has such a vivid imagination. Be good, Grandpa will take you to play later, okay? But you have to promise not to cause trouble and lie, all right?" "I'm not lying, Grandpa, you see. That girl made up all those lies. Such a naughty 3-year-old. All right, let's talk inside. It's cold out here." Old Man Ngo quickly cut off his talkative wife, as the plant shop owner seemed to be losing patience. After delivering the plants, the shop owner quickly said goodbye and left, not even stopping to drink the water Old Man Ngo had offered. Old Man Ngo watched the man's figure receding down the hallway, taking big strides, occasionally glancing back with a look of concern. Initially, the man had been cheerful and friendly towards him, but for some reason, his attitude had suddenly changed. After dinner, while Truck Mai and Little Ha were asleep in their room, Old Man Ngo hung the wooden wind chimes he had brought from his hometown on the balcony. He loved wind chimes. This particular one had been made for him by his grandfather when he was a child. So, no matter how many times he moved to escape debt, he always took it with him. After hanging the wind chimes, he brewed a pot of hot tea and lay on the sofa, enjoying this precious moment of rest. The clear, melodious tinkling of the chimes made Old Man Ngo feel truly relaxed and at peace, as if he had returned to the old house where he had lived with his grandfather. Having lost his father early, Old Man Ngo grew up with his grandfather, a renowned shaman in the village. But he didn't follow his grandfather's profession, choosing instead to study and go to the city to see tall buildings, make a living, and escape the poverty of his remote mountain village. In no time, Old Man Ngo drifted off to sleep. Suddenly, a small hand slapped his cheek hard, and a child's cry rang out, startling him awake. "Grandpa, turn that thing off. It's too noisy." Old Man Ngo struggled to open his heavy eyelids, as if someone was pulling them shut. He vaguely saw a faceless little boy standing right next to his head, glaring at him. This boy was about the same height as his granddaughter Little Ha, but he was still a plump mass of flesh, with distinct facial features and sharp, toothless fangs that could threaten Old Man Ngo again. "Didn't you tell Grandpa to put that thing away out there? My mother can't come in." "Now open your mouth and tell me, who is your mother, where is she, why are you in my house? This is my mother's house. Don't you and that girl named La bother my mother and me." As he spoke, the boy spat a mouthful of saliva onto the floor and used his sharp, dark fingernails to scratch Old Man Ngo's face, causing him sharp pain. But because of this, he woke up completely. It had been a tiring sleep. Old Man Ngo mumbled to himself. Unconsciously, he reached up to his face, where he still felt a burning sensation, and looked at the glass top of the coffee table. He saw clear, red scratch marks. What the hell is this? Old Man Ngo recalled the boy he had just seen in his dream. The feeling was so real, as if he was truly present in this house. Now, he remembered when he was a child, going with his grandfather to the backyard to cut bamboo for making wind chimes. His grandfather had told him that wind chimes could ward off evil spirits. It was best to hang a wind chime on the balcony to prevent things from the spiritual world from entering. But some vengeful, heavily aggrieved spirits, unable to find peace, could easily pass through the wind chimes. However, as spirits, they certainly couldn't tolerate bright light or the noisy sounds from the wind chimes. Recalling this, a shiver ran down Old Man Ngo's spine. He didn't believe in ghosts, but for some reason, he had genuinely felt a chill just now. In the afternoon, little Ha woke up and remembered her grandfather's promise from earlier. She eagerly brought her bicycle, demanding that her grandfather take her out to play. At this hour, old Man Ngo had no more work. He decided to forget about the strange dream and put on a jacket for the little girl to take her out. As they were about to leave, little Ha turned back, waved her hand, and said, "I'm going to play for a bit, then I'll be back. Don't take my room." "Sweetheart, what are you talking about?" Little Ha giggled and replied, "That big brother there keeps telling me to take his room, but I don't want to." With that, the little girl zoomed off towards the elevator, leaving her grandfather standing there, his face ashen, looking at the closed bedroom door, behind which there was no one. Throughout their outing, Old Man Ngo was preoccupied and unable to focus on anything. His mind was filled with the image of the chubby little boy from his midday dream and what little Ha had innocently told him. Suddenly, Old Man Ngo looked up at the 10th floor, where he vaguely saw the figure of a woman in a black dress with messy hair. A small child on her shoulder clung tightly to its mother's back, its hollow eyes staring towards him. Little Ha eventually got bored of playing, as she had no new friends and wanted to go home. As the two got into the elevator, they found a very large red suitcase that someone had left behind. The suitcase was brand new, shiny red on the outside, with only a little dust and water on the handle. And since there was no camera in the elevator, Old Man Ngo decided, "Well, I'll just take it home for now. If someone loses it, they'll announce it and I'll return it. If no one asks, I'll have an extra sturdy suitcase for storage." When Truck Mai saw the suitcase Old Man Ngo brought home, she liked it very much because her family often had to move, so having such a good item made moving much less troublesome. On the balcony, Old Man Ngo's wind chimes suddenly clanged, as if their strings were about to break. And that evening, not a single gust of wind blew. That night, in their new home, little Ha insisted on sleeping with her grandmother, which irritated Truck Mai. "What's wrong with this child? She's spoiled rotten. Go to sleep, you're not going into your room, just whining endlessly. I'm going to send you back to your parents right now." Old Man Ngo, seeing his wife's anger, rushed to little Ha's room, gently hugging the weeping, sniffling child and comforting her. "Sweetheart, what's wrong today?" Little Ha, seeing her grandfather, burst into tears, pointing to the wall above her bed and saying, "That big brother is sitting at the head of my bed, and he slapped me. And that girl is lying on my bed. How can I sleep?" At this, Old Man Ngo looked closely at his granddaughter's face. Indeed, there was a tiny handprint on her cheek, and the empty space on the bed was pressed down, as if someone was lying there, causing Old Man Ngo to be filled with an unconscious fear. The face of the woman he had seen standing by the door earlier that afternoon flashed in his mind. Old Man Ngo knew that there might be something unclean existing in this house, but he simply lacked the ability to see it. That night, knowing his wife's temperamental nature, Old Man Ngo didn't send little Ha to her room. Instead, he slept with his granddaughter. Even so, the little girl continued to cling tightly to his arm, her whole body huddled, as her grandfather tried to soothe her to sleep. Until her breathing became regular, occasionally punctuated by a small sniffle, indicating little Ha had finally fallen into a troubled sleep. Old Man Ngo gently sat up, his hands clasped around his worn knees, pondering the trivial matters in his head. He didn't know how long he sat there like that, but when the deep sound of wind chimes echoed from the balcony, a cold breeze suddenly touched the top of his head. His whole body slowly went numb. The bedroom door slowly opened, and a faint silhouette of a woman appeared, carrying a small child on her neck. Their hollow black eyes stared towards Old Man Ngo's bed. Both mother and child carried a heavy accumulation of resentment, instantly turning the surrounding space into a dense, stifling gloom. Old Man Ngo, with his last bit of clarity, tried to take a long, deep breath, but a strange sensation enveloped his entire body. This feeling made Old Man Ngo unable to control himself. In a flash, his chest felt tight and uncomfortable, his head throbbing with immense pain. He didn't know why, but his rationality told him that a brutal murder had occurred in this house, and the deceased were the mother and child now faintly shimmering before him. The two spirits were like two flickering shadows moving around the room, then suddenly appeared before Old Man Ngo. They looked at him with both resentment and sorrow. In truth, Old Man Ngo couldn't distinguish what that feeling was called. But the boy sitting on his mother's shoulder, when he saw little Ha sleeping peacefully under the quilt, suddenly had a ferocious look on his face and lunged to scratch little Ha's face. The little girl's scream immediately woke Old Man Ngo. His whole body tingled, and his mind began to clear. He frantically hugged little Ha, quickly grabbed the wet washcloth kept next to the head of the bed, and pressed it against the bleeding wound on the little girl's face. The wound emitted a pungent, metallic smell that made Old Man Ngo feel a wave of dizziness, but he ignored his physical discomfort and rushed out of the room with little Ha. The little girl's painful cries and Old Man Ngo's hurried footsteps quickly woke Truck Mai. As she stepped out of the room, Truck Mai was immediately pushed back into the present when, in a fleeting second, she saw two shadowy figures flitting behind her husband. The child on the woman's shoulder even turned back and gave her a deep, resentful stare. But it was precisely from that moment that something within Truck Mai suddenly awakened. She felt a touch of compassion and sorrow for the strange woman she had only glimpsed for a brief second. It was like maternal love, always present, but lost somewhere within her, a woman whose true self had been corrupted by gambling. "Give me the first aid kit." Old Man Ngo's voice was like a roar, and Truck Mai immediately returned to reality. The wound on little Ha's cheek was only a small scratch, so when Old Man Ngo applied a traditional family remedy, the pain subsided. The metallic smell of blood had completely vanished. Only the washcloth he had used to cover the wound was now stained black, making him afraid to touch it. He immediately threw it into the trash that very night. After soothing little Ha back to sleep, Old Man Ngo and his wife sat together. It had been a long time since they had sat so peacefully side by side, and it had been many years since they had opened up to each other like this. Old Man Ngo stared distractedly at the wind chimes on the balcony, while Truck Mai was unusually calm. Finally, Truck Mai was the one to speak first. "I think I saw them earlier. You must have too, right?" Old Man Ngo lit another cigarette, took a drag, calmed himself, and then slowly replied, "Perhaps this house isn't clean." "What are you going to do?" "What can I do? If we can't live here, we'll sell it." That conniving agent knew this house was haunted, but still tricked us into buying it for a fortune. He could only trick outsiders like us. Locals probably all know the history of this house. How can we sell it? Who would buy it? And thinking about the money, Old Man Ngo became furious, because to buy this house, he had spent all his retirement savings. Now, he didn't have much left for emergencies or daily expenses. He also glanced nervously at his wife, afraid that her sharp tongue would mock him until he went insane. However, contrary to Old Man Ngo's expectations, Truck Mai sighed and slowly said, "Don't you think that female ghost resembles someone? The more I look at her, the more she reminds me of our youngest daughter, Man Ngo. If she were alive, she'd be older than little Ha now. I'm a bit hesitant. What if we try to help these two poor spirits find peace?" Hearing this, Old Man Ngo was startled. He was about to say something to make her give up such a difficult idea, but seeing the tears welling up in his wife's eyes, he couldn't bring himself to. The memory of Man Ngo's death still weighed heavily on both of them, like a stone in their hearts. Man Ngo's death was the turning point that completely shattered their once peaceful family. Man Ngo was only 22, the most beautiful age for a girl, when she had just graduated college and been accepted as an intern at a large fashion company in Shanghai. However, during her first Tet holiday back home after graduation, she was raped and murdered by her son-in-law's lover, causing Old Man Ngo to lose his bright, obedient daughter and his son's family to fall apart. His son, overcome with guilt towards the family, became increasingly mentally frail, causing his business to decline and eventually go bankrupt. Little Ha was only 1 year old at the time. After that, his son left, going abroad, and Truck Mai plunged into gambling to forget the sorrow of losing 2 children who had been the pride of their entire clan. Old Man Ngo pondered for a moment, then nodded in agreement with his wife. In his mind, new plans began to form to save his small family once again. The couple sat in the living room, talking softly until dawn. Then, Truck Mai went to prepare some food for the 2 old men and the granddaughter. Meanwhile, Old Man Ngo hurried to the plant market, seeking out the shop owner who had sold him plants yesterday, to inquire about the house. He was certain that this owner knew more about what had happened there. When the shop owner saw Old Man Ngo, his hair already had more gray strands than yesterday. He wasn't surprised, quickly greeted him, and pulled him inside for a cup of hot tea. Old Man Ngo wasted no time and immediately brought up the subject. Can you tell this old man about what happened in the house I just bought? You've lived here for a long time. You must know what happened there, right? Did anything strange happen at your house last night? The shop owner asked, but his eyes seemed to already confirm the answer from the old man in front of him. He then honestly revealed, I know telling this might take food off someone's plate, but that house is haunted. Not just one spirit, but two vengeful spirits died tragically there. One was a pregnant student about to graduate, murdered by her boyfriend, dismembered, and thrown into the hydroelectric lake. He then drowned himself in the lake. But perhaps the mother and child died so unjustly that they can't find peace. Every night, they return to the place where they were killed, haunting it. That's why the house has changed owners so many times, and no one has managed to stay past the second night. People living around your house are afraid of the story. They say every night they hear the mother and child wandering around the house, sometimes hearing the baby's cries, which is enough to send shivers down an old person's spine. Your family has already moved in, so it's done. But if you're not short on money, I'd tell you to demand a refund from the agent. That house is cursed. You won't be able to live there. Although Old Man Ngo had vaguely imagined stories about two spirits in his house, hearing the plant shop owner's account truly left him stunned, and the truth was too tragic. The plant shop owner looked at Old Man Ngo with concern for a long time, then remembered to add more details. The first owner of this house was a girl who worked in the industrial zone here. People said she was very capable, but her boyfriend cheated on her and even brought his mistress to their home. After that, she suffered a psychological breakdown and went mad. They said she's been in an asylum ever since. The girl who was killed was the mistress of the boyfriend of the house's owner who went mad. In short, third parties either die unjustly or go insane. I don't know what kind of love they had that caused such suffering to each other. No one had a good ending. It's just a pity for people like you who bought a haunted house. The two continued to chat for a while until it was time for Old Man Ngo to leave. Today was his first day at the factory, so even though his heart felt like it was crumbling due to the strange story he had just heard, Old Man Ngo remained professional, determined not to lose his family's livelihood. After all, even if the house was haunted, he now had nowhere else to go, as he had no money left. He could only try harder at work, especially at his age, past 50. However, the factory director, Mr. Chen, was Old Man Ngo's friend from high school. Just by looking at Old Man Ngo's face, Mr. Chen knew something was bothering him. So, after greeting his colleagues, Mr. Chen offered Old Man Ngo a cigarette and genuinely asked, "Is something bothering you, or is there something going on at home?" "Indeed, there's something going on at home, in the house I just bought, Mr. Chen. It's truly haunted. There are two vengeful spirits living in my house." At this, Old Man Ngo honestly recounted to his friend the strange events his family had encountered, along with what he had learned from the plant shop owner. Mr. Chen listened intently and seriously, occasionally taking a drag from his cigarette, as if recalling a long-forgotten memory about the talented but ill-fated HR manager. When Old Man Ngo finished speaking, Mr. Chen slowly said, "I remember telling you once that there was a team of Vietnamese officials about to go for training in Shanghai, but then a girl suddenly went missing before the departure date. Her name was Ha. She must be the former owner of the house you just bought. Ha was one of the highly regarded officials on the list of personnel nominated for senior management at the factory. But right before her trip, the company received her resignation and she completely lost contact. A few months later, Ha was found in the forest near the hydroelectric lake, by which time she had gone mad. Later, the police investigated and found out that there had been a murder in Ha's house, a dismembered body put in a suitcase and thrown into the hydroelectric lake. The deceased was Ha's lover. They both worked at this factory. I can't believe you bought that house. What are you going to do now? Are you going to sell it?" Old Man Ngo's face showed helplessness, and he shrugged in frustration. "My wife wants to keep the house because, after all, we bought it cheap, and we don't have enough money to move again. We have to find a way to help those spirits find peace. Do you still remember that master, Tan Duong, the one who is great at performing rites for the dead? He was in Vietnam looking for a tomb for someone. Can you invite him to my house for a visit now?" "Tan Duong, how could I forget that guy? He cost me a fortune to inspect the land for my house last year. I still have his number, I'll contact him. That guy is good, but it comes with a price. But don't worry, my friend, I'll take care of this. Consider it a housewarming gift. Mr. Chen was so generous because he knew old Man Ngo was broke, or rather, flat broke, due to his wife's debts, which was why he had to move to a foreign land to start a new life in his middle age. Although old Man Ngo felt a bit awkward about his friend's enthusiasm, he had no other choice. He could only nod in agreement to Mr. Chen's help. Mr. Chen quickly contacted the feng shui master, shaman, and fortune teller, Tan Duong. Tan Duong was originally a gangster, but after a gang war with rivals left him with one eye and a limp, he developed psychic abilities: fortune-telling, exorcism, and performing funeral rites. At first, Tan Duong only found work at small funerals in rural villages, but gradually, with divine grace, he gained more and more clients, and his reputation grew, even spreading beyond borders to several Southeast Asian countries. This time, Tan Duong was looking for the tomb of a Chinese young lady who died in southern Vietnam. Hearing Mr. Chen's call, Tan Duong quickly made arrangements to head north. For these exorcism and spirit-sending tasks, it didn't take much time, and the fees were high, making it easy to earn a good sum before returning to the south to continue his tomb search. Especially when Mr. Chen asked for his help, Tan Duong was even more enthusiastic because the money he had earned from Mr. Chen last year had been a bit excessive for the effort expended, so he had promised to return a portion to ease his karma. Around 9 p.m., Tan Duong arrived at Old Man Ngo's address by taxi. Tonight, Old Man Ngo had sent Little Ha to stay temporarily at Mr. Chen's house for one night, while he and his wife prepared offerings as Tan Duong had instructed. Mr. Chen was also present at Old Man Ngo's house, eagerly awaiting an exorcism he had never witnessed firsthand. When Tan Duong called to say he had arrived and was about to take the elevator up, the three people in Old Man Ngo's house grew more anxious than ever. They all looked out the door, while also double-checking the offerings. Tan Duong, meanwhile, confidently carried his bag of tools into the elevator to the 10th floor. But as the elevator doors closed, a chilling sensation, as if an electric current, ran down Tan Duong's spine, causing him to sweat profusely and drop his bag of talismans, which he had painstakingly prepared. Only then did he realize there was something strange about this apartment complex. He had been overly confident, not paying attention because it was only 9 p.m. and not particularly cold, unlike previous nights. But earlier, when he entered the playground, there wasn't a single soul around. Just as Tan Duong began to feel an eerie prickling sensation, the elevator doors opened. A young woman carrying a baby wrapped tightly in a blanket stepped in. She nodded a greeting, and he let out a sigh of relief, trying to calm himself. Inwardly, Tan Duong even chuckled at himself, nearly losing all prestige and image as a famous shaman due to superstition. Tan Duong secretly glanced at the girl. She stepped in without pressing a floor button, so he started a conversation. "Which floor are you going to, mother and child?" The girl stood near the elevator door, calmly replying to the foreigner's question. "My baby and I are going up to the 10th floor. We just went out for a bit, but it's bedtime, so we have to go back to sleep." "Oh, are you going to the 10th floor too? Do you have someone you know there?" "Maybe apartment 1013. The girl suddenly turned and looked Tan Duong directly in the eyes, a chilling smile playing on her lips. It was so cold that Tan Duong, usually fearless, shivered for some reason. "How did you know? My baby and I also live in that house." With that, the girl let out a shriek that sent chills down his spine. The elevator also shook violently, and then the lights went out, terrifying Tan Duong. In the darkness, he fumbled, clutching his bag of talismans for comfort. In his ears, the demonic laughter and cries echoed. Visions of a twisted butcher brutally chopping off a woman's limbs and stuffing them into a red suitcase, blood covering the butcher's face and hands, and the floor clearly appeared before Tan Duong's eyes, making his stomach churn. The metallic smell of blood also filled Tan Duong's senses, engulfing him in a feeling of extreme horror. Trapped in the elevator, he felt suffocated, as if his entire body was being stuffed into a large suitcase, becoming increasingly dark and painful. This was probably the first time in his career as a shaman that he had been so utterly terrified by a female ghost, losing all his dignity. Meanwhile, the three people in apartment 1013 were anxiously waiting for Tan Duong. They held their breath, listening for every sound outside, especially when the wind chimes tinkled with a deep resonance. They kept looking at the clock, their hearts burning with impatience as time passed. Especially old Man Ngo, who had spent a significant part of his youth with his grandfather and was familiar with things from the other side. Tan Duong was his best lifeline right now. He knew that although this shaman was a bit boastful, he was also capable. If he claimed 10 parts, at least 7 parts were true. So, after waiting for a long time and Tan Duong still hadn't arrived, he anxiously went to the elevator to meet him. But old Man Ngo would have never imagined that he would meet Tan Duong for the first time in such a terrible, pathetic state. At that moment, the elevator doors opened and closed repeatedly, but stopped at the 10th floor. In the flickering light of the elevator lamp, old Man Ngo saw Tan Duong huddled in a corner, his face covered in a red talisman with illegible, scrawled characters. And notably, there was a foul smell. Old Man Ngo jumped back 3 steps to calm himself. After Old Man Ngo and Mr. Chen helped him change, Tan Duong, without saying a word, handed all the upfront payment back to Mr. Chen and immediately flew straight to the south that night. Partly out of shame, but mostly out of fear. The female and child spirits in apartment 1013 had become malevolent spirits after being tragically murdered and nursing their resentment for a long time. Tan Duong had some abilities, but he could only help calm spirits who died from accidents, illness, or find lost tombs. As for malevolent spirits like these two, he had to run as fast as he could to save his own life. As for Old Man Ngo's family, after the failed exorcism attempt, they no longer dared to live in apartment 1013. Mr. Chen arranged for them to stay temporarily in the employee dorms, waiting for another opportunity to find a more powerful master. And apartment 1013 was once again locked. Every night, people heard the cries of the young woman and her child echoing from another realm, spreading fear among those who dared to approach the house. And the house, where a horrific massacre had occurred years ago, meant no one dared to come near or investigate.